First Contact, the discovery of the Zephyrians, the diplomatic mission, secrets and suspicions, unleashed power, Sarah's awakening, invasion revealed, the battle for Earth begins, humanity's last stand, Sarah's ultimate sacrifice. Now, I'll begin crafting the story for you, starting with Part 1. Part 1. First Contact, the discovery of the Zephyrians. In the year 2157, humanity stood on the precipice of a new era. The first signs of extraterrestrial intelligence had been detected by the Kepler array, a network of advanced space telescopes scattered throughout the solar system. Dr. Sarah Chen, a brilliant astrophysicist with a secret she'd kept hidden her entire life, sat in rapt attention as the transmission played out on the holographic display before her. The message, originating from a star system 40 light-years away, was unmistakably artificial. It contained mathematical sequences, atomic structures, and what appeared to be a three-dimensional star map. The scientific community was electrified, and governments worldwide scrambled to form a unified response. Sarah leaned back in her chair, her mind racing. She had always known she was different, possessing abilities that defied explanation. From a young age, she could manipulate energy fields and matter at will, move objects with her mind, and even perceive the fundamental forces of the universe in ways that no instruments could match. But she had kept these powers hidden, fearing the consequences of discovery. Now, as humanity prepared to make first contact with an alien civilization, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that her unique abilities might play a crucial role in the events to come. The next few months were a whirlwind of activity. The United Earth Council was formed, bringing together the brightest minds and most influential leaders from across the globe. Sarah, recognized for her groundbreaking work in theoretical physics, was recruited to join the First Contact team. As preparations for a response mission got underway, Sarah worked tirelessly to help develop the technology needed for interstellar communication and travel. Her insights, guided by her hidden abilities, led to breakthroughs that pushed human science decades ahead in a matter of months. Finally, after nearly a year of preparation, the day arrived to launch humanity's first interstellar vessel, the UES Horizon. Sarah stood on the observation deck of the lunar base, watching as the sleek ship rose from its cradle, propelled by the revolutionary engines she had helped design. The journey to the alien world, which they had named Zephyria, would take 5 years. Sarah and a team of 200 specialists would spend that time in cryosleep, their bodies preserved for the historic moment of first contact. As Sarah settled into her cryopod, she couldn't help but wonder what awaited them. Would the aliens, the Zephyrians, be peaceful? Would they welcome humanity with open arms, or would they view Earth as a threat? And how would her own hidden nature factor into the encounter? The lid of the cryopod sealed shut, and Sarah felt the cold embrace of suspended animation take hold. Her last conscious thought was a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Whatever lay ahead, she knew that the fate of humanity might very well rest in her hands. 5 years passed in the blink of an eye for the crew of the Horizon. Sarah's eyes fluttered open as the cryopod systems gently roused her from her long slumber. As consciousness returned, she immediately sensed something was different. Her powers, always a subtle presence in the back of her mind, now thrummed with an intensity she had never experienced before. The ship's AI, Araya, greeted the awakening crew. "Good morning, Horizon team. We have entered the Zephyrian system and are on approach to the third planet. Preliminary scans indicate a thriving civilization with technology comparable to our own." Sarah made her way to the bridge, joining Captain Alina Rodriguez and the rest of the command staff. Through the view screen, they got their first glimpse of Zephyria, a world of swirling purple and green clouds, vast oceans, and continents dotted with gleaming cities. "It's beautiful," Sarah whispered, her enhanced senses picking up on energy patterns emanating from the planet that no one else could perceive. As they entered orbit, a transmission came through. The face that appeared on the screen was distinctly alien. Large, almond-shaped eyes, smooth gray skin, and a slender neck supporting an elongated head. Yet despite its otherworldly appearance, the being's expression was unmistakably one of wonder and welcome. "Greetings, visitors from Earth," the alien spoke, its words translated by the ship's advanced linguistics software. "I am Zar Tol, First Minister of the Zephyrian Confederation. We have long awaited this day, when we would no longer be alone in the cosmos. Welcome to our world." The next few days were a blur of diplomatic exchanges and cultural introductions. The Zephyrians proved to be a peaceful and technologically advanced species, eager to share knowledge and forge alliances. They invited a delegation from the horizon to visit the surface, and Sarah found herself among those chosen to make first contact on Zephyrian soil. As the shuttle descended through the alien atmosphere, Sarah's powers surged once again. She gripped the armrests of her seat, trying to maintain her composure as waves of energy washed over her. Something about this world was amplifying her abilities, and she wasn't sure how long she could keep them contained. The landing site was a vast plaza in the heart of Zephyria's capital city. Thousands of aliens had gathered to witness the historic moment, their excited murmurs creating a backdrop of alien sounds. As Sarah stepped onto the ramp, she took a deep breath, steeling herself for whatever lay ahead. First Minister Zar Tol approached, flanked by a delegation of Zephyrian officials. "Dr. Chen," he said, extending a four-fingered hand in greeting, "we are honored by your presence. Your scientific achievements are most impressive." As Sarah reached out to shake the alien's hand, a spark of energy leaked between them. Zar Tol's eyes widened in surprise, and Sarah felt a moment of panic. Had she just revealed her secret to an alien race? But the moment passed, and if Zar Tol had noticed anything unusual, he gave no sign. The formal greetings continued, and soon the human delegation was ushered into a grand hall for the official welcome ceremony. As Sarah listened to the speeches and participated in the cultural exchanges, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Her enhanced perceptions picked up on subtle tensions among the Zephyrian officials, hidden currents of unease that belied their outward hospitality. Later that evening, as she stood on a balcony overlooking the alien city, Sarah made a decision. She could no longer keep her abilities a secret. If her powers were indeed growing stronger on this world, she needed to understand why. And if there was any threat to Earth hidden beneath the Zephyrians' friendly facade, she had to uncover it. With determination in her eyes, Sarah turned back to rejoin the delegation. The true test of humanity's first contact was about to begin, and she would be ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the first day on Zephyria came to a close, Sarah knew that her journey, and humanity's adventure among the stars, was only just beginning. The secrets of her own nature, and the true intentions of their alien hosts, remained to be discovered. But one thing was certain: the universe would never be the same again. The diplomatic mission, secrets and suspicions. As the days passed on Zephyria, the human delegation settled into a routine of diplomatic meetings, scientific exchanges, and cultural tours. Sarah Chen found herself at the center of many of these interactions, her expertise in physics and her quick mind making her a natural bridge between the two species. But beneath the surface of cordial relations, Sarah's enhanced senses continued to pick up on undercurrents of tension and secrecy. One evening, after a particularly long day of negotiations over potential trade agreements, Sarah decided to take a walk through the gardens surrounding the diplomatic compound. The alien flora glowed with bioluminescence in the twilight, casting an ethereal light across the winding paths. As she rounded a corner, she nearly collided with Zar Tol, the Zephyrian First Minister. "Dr. Chen," Zar Tol said, his large eyes blinking in surprise. "I apologize. I didn't expect to encounter anyone here at this hour." Sarah smiled, trying to put the alien at ease. "No need to apologize, Minister. I was just admiring your beautiful gardens. The bioluminescent plants are fascinating." Zar Tol nodded, but Sarah noticed a flicker of unease cross his features. "Yes, they are quite remarkable. Our botanists have spent centuries perfecting their cultivation." He paused, seeming to wrestle with some internal debate. "Dr. Chen, if I may speak frankly." "Of course," Sarah replied, her interest piqued. Zar Tol glanced around, as if ensuring they were alone. "There are factions within our government that are not as enthusiastic about this alliance as I am. They fear that closer ties with Earth could upset the balance of power in our sector of the galaxy." Sarah's mind raced. This confirmed her suspicions that not all was as it seemed on Zephyria. "I see," she said carefully. "And what do you think about these concerns?" "I believe they are short-sighted," Zar Tol replied. "The potential benefits of our two species working together far outweigh any perceived risks. But I fear these factions may take drastic action to prevent our alliance from progressing." Before Sarah could press for more details, they were interrupted by the approach of another Zephyrian official. Zar Tol quickly excused himself, leaving Sarah with more questions than answers. Over the next few days, Sarah found herself paying closer attention to the interactions between various Zephyrian officials. Her enhanced perceptions allowed her to pick up on subtle shifts in energy and barely perceptible changes in body language that others might miss. She began to piece together a picture of a deeply divided alien society, with competing factions vying for control over their world's future. During a tour of a Zephyrian research facility, Sarah's powers suddenly surged. As she passed by a heavily guarded section of the complex, she felt a wave of energy that seemed to resonate with her own abilities. For a brief moment, her control slipped, and a nearby piece of equipment levitated slightly before she could suppress her power. Dr. Kira Volkov, a fellow member of the Earth delegation, noticed the strange occurrence. "Sarah, did you see that? That device just floated for a second." Sarah feigned surprise. "How odd. Maybe it's some kind of anti-gravity technology the Zephyrians are working on." Kira shook her head, unconvinced. "Maybe. But I could have sworn I saw you." "Never mind. It must have been a trick of the light." The incident left Sarah shaken. Her powers were growing stronger by the day, and she wasn't sure how much longer she could keep them hidden. Moreover, the energy she had sensed behind those guarded doors felt familiar somehow, as if it were calling to her. That night, unable to sleep, Sarah made a decision. She needed to investigate what the Zephyrians were hiding. Using her abilities to avoid the compound's security systems, she slipped out of her quarters and made her way back to the research facility. As she approached the guarded section, Sarah concentrated, using her powers to manipulate the energy fields around her and render herself invisible to the facility's sensors. With a deep breath, she phased through the wall, her molecular structure temporarily altering to allow her passage. Inside, Sarah found herself in a vast chamber filled with pulsing, crystalline structures. The air hummed with energy, and she felt her own powers amplifying in response. As she moved deeper into the room, holographic displays flickered to life, showing star charts and what appeared to be invasion plans. Sarah's blood ran cold as she realized the truth. A faction within the Zephyrian government was indeed planning drastic action. They intended to invade Earth, using technology powered by the very same energy that fueled her own abilities. Just as she was about to examine the plans more closely, alarms blared throughout the facility. Sarah's invisibility had failed, her surging powers disrupting the delicate balance she had maintained. She heard shouts and the sound of running feet approaching. In a panic, Sarah reached out with her mind, trying to tap into the energy around her to teleport herself to safety. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a blinding flash of light, she vanished just as the doors burst open and armed Zephyrian guards poured into the room. Sarah rematerialized in her quarters, her head spinning and her body trembling from the enormous expenditure of energy. As she tried to catch her breath, she realized the magnitude of what she had discovered. The fate of Earth now rested on her shoulders, and she could no longer hide what she was. As dawn broke over the alien world, Sarah steeled herself for what was to come. She would have to reveal her powers to her fellow humans, convince them of the Zephyrian threat, and somehow find a way to stop the impending invasion. The true test of her abilities, and of humanity's place among the stars, was about to begin. Unleashed power, Sarah's awakening. The morning after her clandestine discovery, Sarah Chen paced her quarters, her mind racing. The weight of her knowledge pressed down on her like a physical force. She knew she had to act, but revealing both the Zephyrian plot and her own abilities would change everything. A gentle knock on her door interrupted her thoughts. "Dr. Chen, it's Captain Rodriguez. We have an emergency meeting in 5 minutes." Sarah's heart leaped into her throat. Had they discovered her nocturnal excursion? Taking a deep breath to steady herself, she opened the door. "I'll be right there, Captain." The conference room was tense when Sarah arrived. The entire Earth delegation was present, along with several grim-faced Zephyrian officials. Captain Rodriguez stood at the head of the table, her expression grave. "Last night," the captain began, "there was a security breach at one of the Zephyrian research facilities. Our hosts have assured us it wasn't one of our team, but given the sensitive nature of our mission, they've requested we all remain in the diplomatic compound until the situation is resolved." Sarah's mind raced. This was her chance to come clean, to warn everyone about what she'd discovered. But as she opened her mouth to speak, First Minister Zar Tol entered the room, flanked by armed guards. "I'm afraid the situation is more serious than we initially believed," Zar Tol announced, his usually melodious voice now hard and cold. "We have evidence that Earth has sent spies to steal our most sensitive technological secrets. As such, you will all be detained pending a full investigation." Chaos erupted in the room. Accusations flew back and forth as the human delegation protested their innocence. Sarah stood frozen, realizing that the faction Zar Tol had warned her about must have seized control. As the guards moved to restrain the Earth team, Sarah felt something inside her snap. Years of suppressing her powers, of hiding who she truly was, fell away in an instant. Energy crackled around her, and she rose into the air, her eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. "Enough." Her voice resonated with power, silencing the room. "This is all a lie. The Zephyrians are planning to invade Earth. I've seen the proof." All eyes turned to her in shock. Captain Rodriguez was the first to find her voice. "Sarah, what? How are you doing this?" "I'm sorry I kept this from you all," Sarah said, her feet touching back down on the floor. "I was born with these abilities. I don't fully understand them, but they've grown stronger since we arrived on Zephyria." Zar Tol's expression had shifted from shock to calculating interest. "So, the humans have mutants among them. This complicates matters." "It doesn't have to," Sarah replied, turning to face the alien leader. "I know there are factions within your government. Some of you want peace, while others see Earth as a threat to be eliminated. But we don't have to be enemies." As she spoke, Sarah reached out with her powers, tapping into the energy fields that permeated the room. To the astonishment of everyone present, holographic images sprang to life, showing the invasion plans she had discovered the night before. "This is what I found in your secret facility," she explained. "But I also sensed the energy source you're using. It's the same energy that powers my abilities. We could learn from each other, find a way to coexist peacefully." For a long moment, silence reigned. Then, unexpectedly, one of the Zephyrian guards stepped forward, removing his helmet. "She speaks the truth," he said. "I am Krelnas, leader of the resistance against the war faction. We've been working in secret to prevent this invasion." The room erupted once again, this time with a mix of accusations, questions, and demands for explanations. Sarah found herself at the center of it all, her powers still humming just beneath the surface of her skin. As the chaos unfolded, alarms began to blare throughout the compound. Krelniz's eyes widened in fear. "It's begun," he said. "The war faction is making its move. They're launching the invasion fleet." Without hesitation, Sarah reached out with her mind, connecting to the Zephyrian technology around her. Information flooded her consciousness: ship deployments, weapon systems, defense grids. In that moment, she understood that her powers were more than just energy manipulation. She was a living interface between human and alien technology. "I can stop this," she said, her voice resonating with newfound confidence. "But I need your help. All of you, humans and Zephyrians alike." Captain Rodriguez stepped forward, placing a hand on Sarah's shoulder. "Tell us what you need us to do." As Sarah began outlining her plan, she felt a sense of purpose unlike anything she'd ever experienced. The fate of two worlds now hung in the balance, and she was the key to preserving peace. Outside, the skies of Zephyria filled with warships, their engines glowing as they prepared to jump to Earth. But within the compound, an unlikely alliance was forming, one that would challenge the very foundations of both civilizations and redefine humanity's place in the cosmos. Sarah Chen, the woman who had hidden her true nature for so long, now stood revealed as perhaps the most important human in history. As she coordinated the resistance efforts, interfacing with alien technology and strategizing with both human and Zephyrian allies, she realized that this was what she had been born for. The battle for Earth's future was about to begin, and at its heart stood a woman whose power was only just beginning to awaken. Invasion revealed. The battle for Earth begins. The next few hours were a blur of activity as Sarah, the human delegation, and their newfound Zephyrian allies raced against time to prevent the invasion fleet from reaching Earth. Sarah's mind was interconnected with the alien technology, processing vast amounts of data and coordinating their efforts. "The first wave of ships has entered hyperspace," Sarah announced, her eyes glowing with an otherworldly light as she interfaced with the Zephyrian defense grid. "They'll reach Earth in less than 6 hours." Captain Rodriguez nodded grimly. "We need to warn Earth. Give them time to prepare." Krell Ness, the Zephyrian resistance leader, stepped forward. "Our long-range communications array can send a message that will reach your planet in minutes, but the war faction will detect the transmission." "Do it," Sarah said, her voice resonating with authority. "I'll create a diversion to buy us some time." As Krell Ness and the human communications experts worked to send the warning to Earth, Sarah reached out with her powers. She could feel the energy of the entire planet thrumming around her, and she tapped into it, channeling it through her body. Outside the compound, the sky lit up with a dazzling display of energy, mimicking a massive solar flare. Alarms blared across the city as the war faction scrambled to understand this unexpected phenomenon. "Message sent," Rodriguez confirmed. "Now we need to find a way to stop that invasion fleet." Sarah's mind raced through possibilities, analyzing Zephyrian technology and comparing it to her understanding of physics. Suddenly, an idea struck her. "The hyperspace engines," she said. "They use the same energy that powers my abilities. If I can interface with them, I might be able to disrupt their navigation." Krell Ness looked skeptical. "Even if you could, you'd need to be much closer to the fleet. Our longest-range shuttles couldn't get you there in time." Sarah smiled, a plan forming in her mind. Who said anything about a shuttle? She turned to her human colleagues. "I need the strongest power source we have on the horizon, and I need you all to trust me." Within the hour, a small team had assembled on the outskirts of the Zephyrian capital. Sarah stood at the center of a hastily constructed array of human and alien technology, the ship's main power core humming before her. "This is insane," Dr. Volkov muttered, but her hands were steady as she made the final adjustments to the equipment. Sarah took a deep breath, reaching out to touch the power core. "Sometimes insane is all we've got." She closed her eyes, focusing her powers. The energy from the core flowed into her, combining with her own abilities and the ambient energy of Zephyria. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a blinding flash of light and a thunderous crack, Sarah vanished. She rematerialized in the cold void of space, surrounded by the Zephyrian invasion fleet. Thousands of ships stretched out before her, their sleek forms gliding silently through the darkness. Sarah had only seconds before the ship's sensors detected her presence. Extending her consciousness, Sarah interfaced with the nearest ship's systems. The alien technology resisted at first, but her unique connection to the energy that powered it allowed her to push through. One by one, she linked with each ship in the fleet, her mind expanding to encompass them all. Alarms blared across the Armada as the Zephyrian commanders realized something was wrong. But it was too late. With a burst of concentrated will, Sarah scrambled the hyperspace coordinates of every ship in the fleet. The result was immediate and chaotic. Ships began dropping out of hyperspace at random points across the galaxy, their navigational systems in disarray. Some reappeared light years from their intended destination, while others found themselves drifting in empty interstellar space. The effort was monumental, pushing Sarah's powers to their absolute limit. As the last ship's navigation was disrupted, she felt her consciousness begin to fade. With her last ounce of strength, she focused on the coordinates of Zephyria, willing herself to return. Back on the alien world, the assembled team waited in tense silence. Minutes stretched into hours with no sign of Sarah. Just as hope began to fade, a flash of light erupted in their midst, and Sarah's unconscious form collapsed to the ground. As medics rushed to attend to her, Captain Rodriguez's communicator crackled to life. It was a transmission from Earth. "This is United Earth Defense Command. We've detected multiple anomalies in near-Earth space, unidentified ships appearing and disappearing. What's your status?" Rodriguez looked at Sarah's still form, a mix of worry and pride on her face. "The invasion has been thwarted," she replied. "But the battle isn't over yet." As the implications of what had just occurred began to sink in, both humans and Zephyrians realized that the universe as they knew it had changed forever. The threat of invasion had been averted, but the revelation of Sarah's powers and the advanced technology of the Zephyrians meant that nothing would ever be the same. In the medical bay of the compound, Sarah's eyes fluttered open. She was greeted by the concerned faces of her human colleagues and their Zephyrian allies. "Did it work?" she asked weakly. Krellness nodded, a look of awe on his alien features. "You've scattered the fleet across half the galaxy. The war faction's plans are in ruins." Sarah managed a small smile before sleep claimed her once more. As she drifted off, her mind touched the vast energy field that connected her to the universe. In that moment, she glimpsed the challenges and wonders that lay ahead, for herself, for humanity, and for the new interstellar community they were on the brink of joining. The battle for Earth had been won, but the true adventure was only beginning. Humanity's last stand. Sarah's ultimate sacrifice. In the days following Sarah's incredible feat, both Earth and Zephyria were in turmoil. The scattered Zephyrian invasion fleet was regrouping, and the war faction, though weakened, was far from defeated. On Earth, governments struggled to come to terms with the reality of both alien life and the existence of superhuman abilities among their own population. Sarah Chen, still recovering from the enormous strain of her actions, found herself at the center of a diplomatic and military storm. As she sat in a secure conference room aboard the Horizon, now in orbit around Zephyria, she could feel the weight of two worlds on her shoulders. "The war faction is consolidating its forces," Krellness reported, his holographic image flickering slightly. "They're gathering at a hidden base in the Omega Nebula. Our intelligence suggests they're planning a final desperate assault on Earth." Captain Rodriguez nodded grimly. "And Earth is hardly prepared for an alien invasion. Our defenses are scattered, and half the world's governments are still debating whether to believe our warnings." Sarah closed her eyes, reaching out with her senses. She could feel the distant echo of the Zephyrian fleet, the hum of their engines resonating with her own powers. "They're afraid," she said softly, "not just of us, but of me. They've realized what I can do, and they see me as the ultimate weapon." Dr. Volkov, who had been analyzing data from Sarah's previous display of power, spoke up. "Sarah, the energy readings we got from you during the fleet disruption, they're off the charts. Theoretically, with that kind of power you cooled, I could end this once and for all." Sarah finished, opening her eyes. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "What exactly are you suggesting, Dr. Chen?" Rodriguez asked cautiously. Sarah stood, her resolve strengthening. "I can feel the energy that powers their ships, their weapons. It's the same energy that fuels my abilities. If I can get close enough to their main fleet, I think I can neutralize their entire armada." "That's suicide," Krellnas protested. "The amount of energy required would be astronomical." Sarah nodded. "I know, but it's our best chance to end this war before it truly begins." The next few hours were a flurry of preparation. As the horizon made its way towards the Omega Nebula, Sarah spent her time in deep meditation, gathering her strength and focusing her powers. She could feel them growing, responding to the approaching confrontation. As they neared the nebula, the ship's sensors came alive with activity. The Zephyrian war fleet was massive. Thousands of ships gathered in attack formation. At its center loomed a colossal dreadnought, bristling with weaponry. "We're being hailed," the communications officer announced. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing the face of the Zephyrian war leader. His eyes widened in surprise as he saw Sarah standing on the bridge. "So, the human weapon reveals herself," he sneered. "Surrender now, and perhaps we'll allow your species to live as our servants." Sarah stepped forward, her eyes glowing with inner fire. "This is your only warning," she said, her voice resonating with power. "Stand down your fleet and return to Zephyria. This war is over." The war leader laughed. "You may have disrupted our first attack, but you're just one human. You can't stop us all." Sarah smiled sadly. "You're right. I'm just one human. But sometimes that's enough." She turned to Captain Rodriguez. "Get the ship to safety. I'll handle this." Before anyone could protest, Sarah's form shimmered and vanished. She reappeared in the void of space, directly between the horizon and the Zephyrian fleet. As both sides watched in awe, Sarah began to glow, her body becoming a conduit for the vast energy she commanded. The war leader's voice crackled over the comms, panic evident in his tone. "All ships, open fire. Destroy her." But it was too late. As the first energy beams lanced out from the Zephyrian ships, Sarah unleashed her power. A wave of pure energy exploded outward from her form, washing over the alien fleet. Ship after ship went dark, their power cords neutralized by Sarah's incredible abilities. On the bridge of the horizon, alarms blared as the energy wave approached, but as it washed over them, they felt only a gentle warmth. Sarah's control was absolute, targeting only the Zephyrian war technology. As the last ship in the fleet went dark, Sarah's glowing form began to fade. Captain Rodriguez watched in horror as her friend's body seemed to dissolve into particles of light, scattering across the stars. In the stunned silence that followed, a transmission came through from the Zephyrian dreadnought. It was Krellnas, his resistance forces having seized control in the confusion. "It's over," he said, his voice filled with awe and sorrow. "The war faction is defeated. Sarah Chen, she saved us all." As the realization of victory settled over both humans and Zephyrians, a new era dawned. The threat of war had been averted, but at a terrible cost. Sarah Chen, the woman who had hidden her powers for so long, had given everything to secure peace. In the years that followed, her sacrifice became legend. Humans and Zephyrians worked together to understand the energy that had given Sarah her abilities, using it to forge a lasting peace and to push the boundaries of science and exploration. And on clear nights, when the stars shone brightly in the sky, some swore they could see a faint glimmer moving among them, a reminder that one person, willing to stand up for what's right, can change the course of history. As humanity took its place among the stars, they carried with them the memory of Sarah Chen, the reluctant hero who had given everything to secure their future. Her legacy would inspire generations to come, a testament to the incredible potential that lies within every human heart. The end of the war marked not just peace between two species, but the beginning of a new chapter in the cosmic story, one where humanity, with all its flaws and all its potential, would help shape the destiny of the galaxy.